Baseball, softball, and track and field continue their season strong. Are the Bucks really back, and are the Penguins' playoff hopes fading? And who will make a splash in the NBA playoffs? It's time to come on down to the Pioneer Sideline. Hello everyone and welcome back to Pioneer Sideline. I'm your host, Natalia Hillen. The Point Park University baseball team traveled to Ohio last week for a two-game series against Lourdes University. The Pioneers won both games. The score of Game 1 was 11-7 and Game 2 ended with a final score of 20-4. This past weekend, the Pioneers traveled to Ohio to play against Shawnee State for a three-game series. Point Park fell to the Bears in Game 1, 11-7. On Saturday, Point Park won both games. The final score of Game 1 was 18-4 and Game 2 ended with a final score of 17-5. In Game 1 on Saturday, the Pioneers had control throughout. In the first inning, Point Park scored 7 runs. Jared Campbell led the way, going 3 for 6 with a homer, double, 2 runs, and 2 RBIs. On the other hand, Jordan Campbell was 2 for 5 with a homer and 4 RBIs. Macaulay Brito had a 3-run homer in the second inning, and at the top of the fourth, Jordan Campbell got an RBI single, and Omar Murillo had a base hit which drove in 2. Luis Gonzalez was 2 for 4 as he blasted a 2-run homer in the 5th inning. Isaac Santana went 2 for 4 with a double, RBIs, and 2 runs. On the pitching side, Ramon Rodriguez striked out 9, walked 1, and scattered 4 runs and 8 hits. The final score was 18-4. Moving on to Game 2 on Saturday, the Pioneers picked up where they left off from Game 1. In the first inning, the Pioneers got 6 runs, which included a 3-run homer by Chris Williams, and Martinez got an RBI double. In the second inning, Gonzalez smashed a solo homer. Just in the second game, PPU had 7 homers alone. Other highlights include Jordan Campbell with a 2-run bomb in the 4th, Brito going deep in the 5th, and Carlos Burros with a 2-run homer in the 7th. Overall, Martinez was 3 for 5 with 3 RBIs, Williams was 2 for 3 with 3 RBIs, Gonzalez and Eddie Javier Jr. 2 for 5 with 3 runs and an RBI, and Santana was 2 for 4 with 2 runs. On the pitching side, 3 different pitchers total for the final game. John Hawley pitched in the 4th inning and only gave up 3 hits and 4 runs. Ethan Parker got the victory, tossing the 4th, 5th, and 6th on 2 hits and 1 run, and Yohav Rivera struck out the side in the 7th to finish it off. Congratulations to Luis Gonzalez on being named RSC Player of the Week from March 25th through the 31st. The Pioneers are 21-9 and 12-3 in the RSC. They currently remain in first place in the RSC East by beating Shawnee State. The Bears are in second place. Point Park's next few games are at home versus Wilberforce this Thursday. Good luck, Pioneers. Switching gears over to the Point Park softball team as they have had a few games this past week. Last week, the Pioneers played against Carlow University and swept the Celtics. Game 1 ended with a score of 12-1, and Game 2 ended 4-0. This past weekend, Point Park played in a 2-game series against St. Mary of the Woods. The Pioneers won the first game 4-2 and fell in the second 9-3. In Game 2, Point Park started the scoring off, but the Pomeroys got 9 runs. St. Mary of the Woods' Jacelyn Kahn got a solo home run over the center field fence to tie the game 1-1. In the 5th, the Pomeroys picked up 3 more runs in the 5th and then 1 in the 6th. Highlights include Arndt starting the inning off with a triple, which put her on a scoring position. Lee got a ground ball, which allowed Arndt to score. Sydney Reese drew a walk following the ground out RBI by Lee. On the pitching side, Savannah Lee threw 4 innings and gave up 4 runs. Christina Mala threw 2 innings and gave up 5 runs, of which 3 were earned. Malenex entered the close out the game, giving up 3 hits. Arndt led the Point Park offense, going 2 for 3 with 2 runs scored. Lee went 1 for 2 with 2 RBIs. Point Park is 11-13 overall and 5-9 in the RSC. The Pioneers' next games, which were supposed to be today in West Virginia, have been postponed. They are scheduled to play against Brescia University this Friday. Good luck, Pioneers. After the break, we recap the track meet from this past weekend. Stay tuned. Now let's send things to Bryn Reese to recap the track team's results at the Carnegie Mellon Invitational. Bryn?
Thanks, Nat. The track and field team took their talents to Carnegie Mellon this past weekend for the CMU Invitational. The Pioneers competed against numerous local colleges, including Pitt, Robert Morris, Slippery Rock, Chatham, Carnegie Mellon, and Duquesne. Starting with the men's team, Demir Lomax placed 4th overall in the 100-meter with a time of 10.93 seconds. Lomax also competed in the 200-meter with a 5th overall finish in a time of 22.43 seconds. In the 400-meter, Elijah James placed 1st for the Pioneers and 5th overall with a time of 50.19 seconds, followed by Juan Barrera at 7th overall. Yannick Windelband thrived in the 800-meter, coming in 7th overall with a time of 1 minute and 55.81 seconds. Ramiro Alunque placed big in the 1500-meter with a final time and PR of 4 minutes and 1.82 seconds, awarding him a 10th place overall finish. Freshman Luke McKenna placed 5th overall in the 3000-meter with a time of 9 minutes and 16.61 seconds. This was closely followed by Joshua Goslin with his time of 9 minutes and 29.79 seconds, putting him 6th overall. Sideline's own Jordan Cullen and Gabe Ebersol competed in the 5000-meter, placing 25th and 28th respectively. Freshman Kanya Mills finished 1st overall in the 110-meter hurdles with a lightning time of 14.95 seconds. Gavin Glass placed 6th overall at exactly 16 seconds. Jonah Hartman placed 13th overall in the 400-meter hurdles with a time of 1 minute and 7.17 seconds. The men's 4x100 relay placed 3rd overall, consisting of Glass, Lomax, Barrera, and Akeem Mustafa. In the 4x400 relay, the Pioneers had 2 competing teams that placed 2nd and 7th. All-American freshman Akeem Mustafa placed 2nd overall in the long jump with his best jump at 6.61 meters. Xavier Tolliver led the way in the triple jump with a 10th place overall finish and a distance of 11.31 meters. In shot put, Siobhan Fletcher placed 5th overall at 14.51 meters, and David Atram came in 9th at 13.69 meters. Fletcher also placed big in the javelin throw at 3rd overall. Ben Blahovic followed at 6th place overall, and Cooper Lytle at 9th. Switching gears to the women's team, Diamond Rush continues to dominate, placing 7th overall in the 100-meter with a 12.77 second time. Rush had a 7th place finish in the 400-meter hurdles as well. Olivia Hare was the first Pioneer to finish in the 800-meter, placing 2nd in her heat and 20th overall. Jana Schmid PR'd and placed 14th overall in the 1500-meter at 4 minutes and 57.8 seconds. Sophia Lee Hauser placed 4th overall in the 3000-meter, and a PR time from Allison Placio awarded her an 11th place finish in the 5000-meter. Sideline's own Natalia Hillen gave an incredible performance in the 100-meter hurdles, placing 2nd overall with a time of 15.07 seconds. It was also announced Tuesday that Hillen was named RSC Track Athlete of the Week for the first time in her career. Congrats, Nat. Point Park's 4x100 squad placed 2nd overall, consisting of Emma Romer, Diamond Rush, Kia Ellsbury, and Hillen. Multisport athlete Emma Pavlik shined in the high jump, tying for 3rd place with a 1.53-meter mark. Nyla Rogier followed at 10th place overall. Romer tied for 2nd in the long jump, followed by a 15th place finish from Pavlik. Pavlik and Romer continued to dominate the field events, placing 7th and 8th respectively in the triple jump. Finally, Lena Single placed 5th overall in the javelin throw, followed by Eden McElhaney at 7th place. Stay tuned as the Pioneers travel to Virginia this weekend to compete in the George Mason Dalton E. Banks Invitational. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, Bryn. After the break, we hear about the rest of the sports world from this past week. Don't go anywhere.
It's a tough crowd.
Welcome back. Now I'll be sending things over to Mike Hodgetts for all things locally. Mike?
Thanks, Nat. It would be foolish to suspect the Penguins have anything resembling a good chance at qualifying for the upcoming postseason. It would also be foolish to assume Captain Sidney Crosby won't drag this flawed team as far as he can, as long as he can. Such was the case on Monday, as Crosby collected 2 goals as well as an assist and directed the Penguins to a surprising 5-2 victory against the powerful New York Rangers at Madison Square Garden in New York. Crosby's second goal, an empty net score late in regulation, ensured he would finish the regular season with a point-per-game scoring average for the 19th consecutive season, tying a mark initially established by Wayne Gretzky. Monday's victory came despite at least 2 members of the Penguins' active roster being unavailable due to undisclosed illnesses, as announced by the team's social media account. Projected starting goaltender Tristan Jarry and rookie defenseman John Ludwig. Because of Jarry's absence, the Penguins were only able to dress a lineup of 19 players, with backup goaltender Alex Nedeljkovic starting his 5th consecutive game. Having primarily been deployed as of late due to Jarry's struggles on the ice, Nedeljkovic stopped 28 of 30 shots on Monday to boost his record to 13-6-6. With the win on Monday, the Penguins moved back within 5 points for the final wildcard spot in the Eastern Conference, currently held by the Washington Capitals. Meanwhile, third place in the Metropolitan Division is currently occupied by the Philadelphia Flyers, as the NHL regular season is drawing to a close. In MLB news, the Pittsburgh Pirates start their regular season on fire with a 5-game winning streak, the first time achieving this in 41 years since the 1983 season. The Pirates opened up their regular season on the road in Miami, in which they put up a combined 31 runs en route to a 4-game sweep through some late-game heroics and big-time pitching performances. Pittsburgh is currently amidst a 3-game series with the Washington Nationals, in which they took the first game of the series on Monday in another emphatic 8-4 win. Pittsburgh's 5-0 start is tied for the best record in the Major League with the New York Yankees, and will look to continue the early success after the off day going into Wednesday's game. After Pittsburgh wraps up their 3-game series in D.C., they will be back at home versus the Baltimore Orioles for their home opener this Friday at 4:12 p.m. While the MLB season is a marathon rather than a race, the early success of the Pirates may be a sign of good things to come, with key star players returning, impactful new additions, and bright young prospects coming up. The future for sure looks bright for Pittsburgh as they look to make some noise in the 2024 MLB season. That's all for me this week. Now let's send things over to Gabe Ebersol to recap us on everything happening nationally. Gabe?
Thanks, Mike. On each the men's and women's sides, 4 teams have punched their ticket to the final round of the college basketball tournament. On the women's side, the second matchup was set yesterday, as Iowa advanced past LSU in a highly anticipated rematch of last year's national championship game, 94-87. College basketball's biggest star, Caitlin Clark, delivered 41 points, along with 12 assists and 7 boards in the win, breaking tournament records for assists and 3-pointers during the game as well. LSU's Flau'jae Johnson led the team with 23 points. Angel Reese added in 17 and 20 rebounds before fouling out, but Haley Van Lith shot just 2 for 10 in the losing effort. Region 2 champion Iowa will take on Paige Beckers in the UConn Huskies, who bested Juju Watkins' #1 USC last night, 80-73. Both star guards recorded double-doubles with 10 rebounds, along with 28 and 29 points respectively. The day before, overall top seed and undefeated University of South Carolina coasted past Oregon State 70-58, and NC State rode a strong first half to upset Texas and represent Region 2 in this matchup in Cleveland. Incredibly, NC State is also still standing on the men's side. The number 11 seed coming in, the ACC champions beat down the Duke Blue Devils and Jerry McCain 76-64. Behind a 55-point second half and 29 on the game from big man DJ Burns. Most likely in a mission from the tournament without an automatic conference bid, the Wolfpack are tied for the highest seed to ever make the Final Four, and are the only team with more than 13 losses to ever make it this far. And if they keep the madness of March running into April, they would likely be the highest seed to ever win the national title. But standing in their way first is Purdue and Zach Edey, who is making their first appearance in the Final Four since the 1980 season. Eddy's 40 points and 16 rebounds helped to overcome Tennessee's Dalton Knecht's 37-point performance as they won 72-66. Waiting to face the winner of that game will either be top seed UConn, who blew open the game against Illinois with a 30-0 run to win 77-52, or Alabama, who upset the West Region's top seeded North Carolina Tar Heels by 2 before outlasting Clemson 89-82. Despite overcoming the odds so far, NC State and Alabama are still heavy underdogs. As it stands, UConn is the favorite to be the last team standing in Arizona, while Purdue sits in shotgun. In the NBA, the red-hot Houston Rockets, led by Jalen Green, are set to make a final push for Steph Curry in the Warriors' play-in spot. With around a half dozen games left in the regular season, the Thunder, T-Wolves, and Nuggets will need to sort out the 1 seed, currently decided by half a game. The MVP race is heating up as well, as Luka Doncic moves into the second spot this week on the official NBA ladder, encouraging voters by sitting the Mavericks 5th in the West down the stretch. With the playoffs around the corner and rumors of reigning MVP Joel Embiid returning any game now, the NBA is nearing its peak time of the year. Finally, in the NHL, the Metropolitan-leading New York Rangers hold a single-point lead for the President's Trophy, despite losing to the Penguins 5-2 on Monday. The Dallas Stars slightly lead the Avalanche and Canucks for the top team in the West, while Edmonton Oilers' Connor McDavid has made a late push for the league's top point producer, his 126 sitting just 1 point behind Nate McKinnon and Nikita Kucherov's 127. Austin Matthews, who currently has 62 goals, is likely to lead the league this year in that department, while Florida Panthers' Anthony Stolarz leads eligible goaltenders in both average and saves percentage. That's all for me. Back to Nat at the desk.
Thanks, Gabe. Over the weekend, the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 rounds of the men's NCAA tournament have just concluded, which means we need a recap of the bracket competition. For that, we send things to Jacob Kubik to give us an update. Jacob?
Thanks, Nat. The Final Four teams are on their way to Phoenix, and to no one's surprise, there are 2 1 seeds left standing. UConn continued to roll and was victorious over Illinois thanks to a 30-0 second half run. Zach Edey scored 40 points and 16 rebounds to send Purdue to the first Final Four since 1980. NC State and DJ Burns continued their Cinderella run to beat Tobacco Road rival Duke, and Alabama and Clemson played, this time on the hardwood, as Alabama punched their ticket to the Final Four for the first time in program history. But now the question is, how did our brackets fare? Currently, it is a 2-team race amongst our brackets between UConn and Purdue. Jake Levitsky overtook Joey Bova for the lead of the group with 810 points. Hannah Bezay is 20 points behind Jake with 790 points, and Jake Bell currently sits at 720 points. Faith Miller is in 4th with 650 points, and Joey Bova is also in 4th, maxed out at 650 points. 10 points separate 6th and 7th place between Natalia Hillen and Nick Shermetto, and Bryn Reese is at 8th place with 550 points. Mike Hodges reached his max point total of 540 points in 9th place, and Ryan Thiele closes out the top 10 with 510 points. Matt Belangi, Jacob Kubik, Gabe Eversole, and Peyton Celesti round out the rest of the group. Jake Levitsky, Hannah, Jake Bell, Faith, Natalia, Nick, Bryn, and Ryan have their champion alive in the Final Four, whether that would be Purdue or UConn. However, there are only two champions. Brackets will now begin to cancel each other out. So it appears that there are 4 brackets that have a legitimate chance at victory in the group. They are Jake Levitsky, Hannah, Jake Bell, and Faith. If Purdue beats NC State in the first semifinal game of the tournament, Jake Levitsky would extend his lead to 970. Jake Bell would jump to 2nd place with 880 points. Faith would sit at 3rd with 810, and Hannah will be idle at 790 points. If UConn would win their semifinal game after a Purdue loss, Hannah would jump to 1st place with 950. Jake Bell would have 880, and Jake Levitsky and Faith Miller would remain idle at 810 and 650 respectively. If both UConn and Purdue win their semifinal games, Jake Bell would be the leader entering the national championship with 1,060 points. Jake Levitsky will be 2nd with 970, Hannah will have 950, and Faith will have 810. Semifinal games start Saturday, and the excitement is only starting. Stay tuned. Back to you, Nat.
Thanks, guys. After the break, we discuss NBA playoffs and who will make the push for the Larry O'Brien Trophy.
Take them, cue them, open their mics.
Today marked the 1-year anniversary of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette strike.
Point Park University just hosted a campus-wide meeting.
Plans for the rapid transit bus line are not set to conclude until 2025.
Welcome back to Case of the Week. This week, I'm joined by Matt and Gabe to discuss the NBA playoffs, with them being just a few weeks away. All right, guys, so I'm going to go over the standings. In the Eastern Conference, we got the Celtics, Bucks, and Cavs, the Knicks, Magic, and Pacers. And currently in the play-in, we have Miami Heat, Philadelphia 76ers, Chicago Bulls, and Atlanta Hawks. In the Western Conference, Oklahoma City Thunder, Denver Nuggets, Minnesota Timberwolves, and then the Los Angeles Clippers, Dallas Mavericks, and New Orleans Pelicans. And then currently in the play-in, we have the Phoenix Suns, Sacramento Kings, Los Angeles Lakers, and the Golden State Warriors. So that's a lot of info. Matt, we're going to start with you.
Listen to that star power in the West play-in. That's like insane. You got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. You got Golden State Warriors who have been a dynasty the last decade, and they have LeBron James, the greatest player of all time. I'm not gonna go to that, anyways.
So starting, which conference will provide the most chaos in the postseason?
Well, that's what I was gonna go into is based off like the West play-in and like just like how the Western Conference is. Like I feel like any of those teams, like you could have the 5 seed Dallas Mavericks, Luka could just go for 40 every game and win every single series. And then you have the star power at the bottom of the seeding with it could be LeBron at the bottom of the seed. He got there last year and he made the Western Conference Finals. So you could really see anything happen in the West. Although like the East, I feel like there's a lot less star power, but I feel like those games are gonna be like. Those games are more open. I feel like anyone can win those series because like we saw what an 8 seed did in the East last year. I feel like it's kind of gonna be like that. Like you could see the Pacers make a run. You could really see like the Knicks make a run. You could see any of those low seeds make a run. But I think the West will be more chaos because there's so many star power, especially at like the bottom of the seedings.
I think the West will be more chaotic. I don't necessarily agree with what you said about like the East being a more open series. I think the West will have a lot more contested series, especially in the first round. Like a lot of these like matchups you see, like even a 2 seed, like let's say the Thunder fall to the 2 seed, they don't necessarily want to draw the Phoenix Suns in the first round or the Lakers or whoever they happen to play. Like those matchups, like people will be hesitant to pick the higher seed, whereas in the East, you see like no one's gonna pick whoever comes out of the play-in. Let's say like the Hawks over the Bucks. Like that's just not gonna happen. So I think the West is gonna have a lot of better games, especially early on. Whereas like the East, you might be able to just skip a few games, but the West, you're gonna be tuned in the whole time watching Luka maybe play the Clippers again for like the 3rd, 4th time in his career already. And I think they're going to get a lot of good series out of the West early, I feel like.
Yeah, no, I definitely think the West can be like more competitive. I'm just saying like, because we've seen like what a team like Milwaukee has done. We've seen like what a team like Boston has done in playoff success-wise.
You think a team's more going to like implode than
I think the East has a team that's more like we know that LeBron can beat the Thunder. We know that the Suns can beat the Thunder. We don't know that the Magic can beat Boston in the second round or something. Let's just say that as a hypothetical. We don't know that, but like that's what I'm saying. I think like a lower seed's more. I wouldn't say more likely to win the East, but I feel like one of the higher seeds, like we don't know what could happen in the East, while the West is like we know it's going to be competitive. That's what I was saying.
Okay, I agree with that logic. But you can ask the next question. I suppose.
Okay. Well, of the 2 play-in tourneys as of now, which teams could make a run? Dave, we're going to start with you.
So when I look at the 2 play-ins, the team that stands out to me the most is the 76ers. They're in prime position to make a run because, one, they're sitting in the 8, which is important because they have 2 chances to win, not 1. They don't have to win both, I mean, out of like the 9 or 10 spot. And with Embiid due to come back any game now, they're around 500. They've had a positive point differential all season. They've been able to keep afloat without him. And you have a guy come back who's averaging 35 and 11 all year. I have a little bit of concerns about like just flow and consistency, especially like you see that with a lot of his teams, a lot of standing around, but their ceiling is as high as anybody's coming out of it. And like I would not be surprised even if you see the Sixers, let's say they come out this like the 8 seed, if they beat the Celtics, they're right on the Celtics path to go into the finals in the first round. So if you drop Embiid right back in that mix, they got that same Eastern Conference finals ceiling that they had before. So I think that is easily the most prime team to make a run because they've been expected to do this for years now, and I don't see why that would change with Embiid coming back.
Yeah, for the East, it's 100% the Sixers. I agree. That team's the only reason they're the 8 seed is because of Embiid's injury, and I feel like that's like not debatable. When it comes to the West, there was a team that came out to play in last year. They made the Western Conference Finals last year. It's the Los Angeles Lakers again. I know this team has a lot of fraud problems in the regular season. It happened last year. The only reason I'm saying it is because we saw it happen. Almost the same exact team had the same result last year, and they ended up making it that far. You do not want to play LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Austin Reeves in the playoffs. You don't want to do that. And especially LeBron, you do not want to play that man in the playoff series no matter what, especially with a team that's going to have little experience. Let's say it happens to be the Thunder. I think the Thunder are fantastic, but that team has little experience, and playing against LeBron in the first round could melt them down easily. So for me, I'm going to look at the West. I think that the Lakers are the most likely to make a run, but I feel like the Sixers are probably like the easiest choice because they're like the most obvious standout team.
I would say something also along those lines, but you also have to look into the fact that the Lakers are essentially locked into a 9 or 10 seed. Like they cannot, they would have to almost win out, and whoever was at 8, I think is it the Suns right now at 8, has to lose out. And also
the Suns are at 7, I think.
Well, they could also, that's what I was gonna say, is they could also bounce up into 6 and take the Pelicans spot because they're a game behind the Pelicans. So that's another thing you have to think about is if the Pelicans bounce down, they like a team like that matches up pretty well against like the Lakers, and the matchups matter in these things. And for the Lakers to go out and win that, and then they have to go win another game, they're only playing for a chance to even get another chance to get in there. Whereas you're looking at like the 76ers, they even could just slip up and lose, and they could still just walk into the playoffs no problem. I think it's underrated how much more difficult it is to come out of a 9-10 versus a 7-8, and like those, because you have to win both.
No, it is.
And that's why I don't think the Lakers especially, maybe the Suns I could see because they have that star power, but their chemistry issues all year has been a thing. But the Lakers, I've really locked into a 9-10. I have a hard time believing they're going to make a run this year.
I would say more. I'm more gonna lean towards if they do it than like will they do it, because like as you said, like being at a 9-10 spot, being forced to have to win, and if you lose your first game, like you're done for. If they win that first game, I guarantee they win that second one. I guarantee that I will 100% guarantee they win that second one.
Even if they play like the Suns, you would think that.
I would. The Suns are the toughest, probably the toughest opponent in the play-in for a team like the Warriors. I don't like at all. I'm not. Like, I'm gonna count them out, even though like it's hard to count out Steph, but like those guys have all had down years. Other than Steph, like I guess they've had Trey Jackson-Davis like step up and be a stud randomly, but like outside of that, the team doesn't have enough depth. Wiggins played garbage this year. Klay Thompson did not play like himself, so I'm counting out the Warriors. The Pelicans I do really like the Pelicans. They were one of my sleeper teams going into the season, but and Zion's playing like that good form that we've been waiting for a lot of his career. But like I just don't. It's just something in my head that rings that like history always repeats itself, and it's LeBron James in the playoffs is just a different monster. So it's like if he wins that first game, if it's the Suns, I won't count out Phoenix. But if it's not, then like I could see Lakers winning that game.
All right, well, who could win it all in both the Eastern and Western conferences?
If we're going to start off in the East, it would be a huge disappointment if the Celtics didn't win it this year.
Yeah.
They're on pace to get, give or take, 65 wins. Their point differential is through. They're winning games on average by 12 points. Like, that's the biggest difference to me because Denver's on average winning games by 4 points this year. When you're not even in close situations, you can't lose close games. And for the Celtics, their margin for error is so large how they've been playing this year. They would have to like step down 2-3 levels to give a team a chance to beat them 4 out of 7 times. So for me, it would be a massive, massive disappointment if the Celtics don't break through this year.
Tatum in the playoffs worries me a little bit. Other than that one year where they made the finals, he had a really good playoff run that year. They lost to an 8 seed last year in 7 games, almost won that series, but Boston's really good. If I didn't say them, I'd look dumb because like they're obviously the best team in the East, and they're very, very clearly the best team in basketball. Based off their point differential, how they're able to beat everyone at a high ratio, at a high differential, they're clearly the best team in the East. Do I think they'll get there? Probably. But if I could pick someone else in the East just to throw a competition in there, I'm going to go with... I actually don't even know. The East is so open for me. Cleveland. Let's go Cleveland.
Cleveland.
I'm a Cavs fan. I'm going Cleveland. But it'll probably be Milwaukee, like if they both match up. Like it'll probably but I think Milwaukee's also a choke artist team. And in the West, I'll start with the West. I actually have the Nuggets winning the West again. And this is why that team matches up well against everyone. Like they're never like a standout, like they're never like at a standout difference between whoever their opponent is, and they're also getting back up to that form that we've been waiting for them to get at. Minnesota and Thunder were standout teams in the West. The Nuggets were obviously good, but they bounced at 5 and 4 for a little bit, and now they're back up to like that 2 seed, and they're red hot right now. Jokic, in my opinion, is still the best player in the NBA. They have depth, they have everything covered, and I really think that they have that experience as well, just winning the finals last year.
I would say in the West, I would take the Thunder as like my pick for this year because I think not only people obviously say that Shea's like ascension has been the reason that they've gotten better and why they're so ahead of the rebuild schedule. But I think Jalen Williams is another talked about piece. He's stepping in that second year role, like he's gonna be a star in that organization. And Chet Holmgren also, like he stepped in, he's playing at like an all defensive level. He's a perfect third piece complement on offense as well. So that team, to me, they check a lot of boxes. They play well in half court and the full court. They're hard to score against in the half court. And in the playoffs, a lot of the pacing slows down, and so that's really important. They hit a lot of open shots. They're a great three-point shooting team through the roster. They don't miss free throws. and they have that guy at the top of the list, which is Shea, and that's why I think they can give Denver a good run for their money, even without the experience this year.
Yeah, experience definitely is going to be what stands out if it makes a difference for that Thunder team or not. So I'm going to stick with Nuggets, Boston. I'm sure you said Thunder, Boston.
Yeah, I'm going to go Thunder and probably Boston.
Well, thank you, guys.
All right.
And that's all the time that we have this week. Be sure to join us next week at the same Pioneer time, the same Pioneer channel, and the same Pioneer Sideline.